Hey guys, welcome to the very next episode of the Investing in Nashville show. It's where we really sit down with people that are in real estate, but also just influencers here in Nashville, investing in this great city. And we kind of took a different turn this week. We had Taylor Fisher on the show. Now, one of the things about Taylor is he's a young guy, but he's really going places. He is the head of sales for the Nashville Sounds, which is very interesting. So we really sat down and talked through how he got there, how he got started, why he got started in it. And it's been interesting to just hear his journey from very small beginnings to now being the head of sales for the Nashville Sound. So we hope you enjoy it, and let's enjoy the episode.
All right, well, let's break it open.
Nice, let's do
break
it.
it open. I actually bought this one. I haven't had Four Roses in a while, so I'm going to give me a little bit.
My friends would crack up if they saw me
really?
drinking bourbon because they know it's so off-brand. But
Man.
I'm not opposed here.
Yeah, well, you can just get a little bit. You don't have to have much. And look, you don't have to drink it all, for sure. That's fine. So you're more of a Bud Light guy.
I'm a Bud Light guy
Really?
for sure.
So I can't. So here's the thing for me. I can't drink a lot of beer because it just sits on my stomach and I feel terrible.
Probably true.
I can drink some, but yeah, I'm usually a tequila guy, bourbon guy.
That's aggressive.
Look, I sip it. I'll sit there and sip it, the tequila.
It's like, no, I'm a Bud Light, and all my coworkers know girly mixed drinks.
Oh,
like,
are you?
I'm all for it, and they would dump on me for that.
That's too funny. All right, yeah. So let's go back for a minute. So you have I was excited. I actually didn't realize how much you've actually accomplished. So a mutual friend of ours, Caleb, got us connected.
Yeah.
So you are the director of sales for the Nashville Sounds.
Yes, sir.
You've got you were once the GM for Old Orchard. Richard, I mean, it started off right.
Yeah, that kind of got started. It is a much more glamorous title than what I was.
Yeah.
So the only reason my title was general manager is I was the only employee of the team.
That's right.
In summer collegiate baseball is where I was working.
Right.
Very small teams, very small operations, and I was literally the only employee. So I like to tell everyone I literally had to do everything from scrub toilets to sell sponsorships to sign players and figure out transportation.
Yeah.
I quickly learned what I liked, what I didn't like. What I didn't like scrubbing toilets, that was for sure, and what I was good at, what I was bad at. So it was a big test for 8 to 9 months, but it was good.
Well, okay, let's take me back there. Okay, the way of doing a little research, you had a job, had a normal work,
Yep.
all this, and you just
Yep.
decided, that's it. I want to get into the sports world.
Mm-hmm.
You quit your job, take this job, scrubbing
Yep.
toilets. So I mean, take me there for a minute. Like what led you to the decision? I want to be part of this world.
Sure, yeah. So I went to college at Bentley University. It's where my grandfather went to school. He was an accountant. I really thought I wanted to follow in his footsteps and be an accountant. Quickly learned sophomore year that I did not want to be an accountant. But I finished out my degree. Bentley did a really good job of molding me professionally, I like to think. I came in as a high school graduate, like not really knowing all that much. And by the time I left, I felt like I knew how to present myself and carry myself well, but I didn't want to be in just a straight business world. I didn't want to be in a cube. I didn't want to be a number of an employee. I wanted to really get to know my clients or whatever industry I was in. Started selling electrical products. My dad's an electrician, so I was kind of the running joke in the family is I worked for the company that jacked up the prices before he had to buy them. So he appreciated that, but then I loved it. I loved it, but I was not passionate about it. I knew I wanted to work in sports. I really just needed to get my foot in the door. So part of my master's degree at Northeastern was I had to have an internship in sports. I got connected with the North Shore Navigators, a small summer collegiate team in Lynn, Massachusetts. That's where I got my internship, and then literally from that internship, a couple months later, after the internship ended, I got hired as the GM of the Old Orchard Beach Raging Tide. And I really owe all of that to Bill Terlecki, who is the GM of the North Shore Navigators. He called me out of the blue and said, I think I have an opportunity for you.
Now,
And
was that another college
summer collegiate team?
Summer
Yes.
collegiate
Yeah.
team?
So it was another team within the league, and
Right.
he just reached out and said, "I think I have an opportunity for you." And I was like, "Why would you think a game day employee could be the GM of a baseball team?" He's like, "I just think like you worked really hard, you showed up early, you helped with everything. Like that's really what these type of leagues need."
Right.
And so I was making pretty good money selling electrical products, and it would have been a 60% pay cut to leave, and I did.
Yeah,
it was pretty huge.
I mean, what do you think led you to say, you know what, I'm gonna bet on myself? Because I noticed that was the line that you
did your research.
Well, I try to. Yeah. So I mean, what is it about yourself? You're like, I think that I can do this, because I think a lot of times it takes people being honest with themselves, and sometimes you got to take that step back. You got to take the 60% cut, because you know, like this is where I want to be.
Yeah, I think what worked really, really well was when I had that full-time job selling electrical products. Is I was still living at home, so I was basically using my entire paycheck to pay off college loans and pay off my car and pay off all these bills. So I had money put away. If I hadn't had that type of system, if I was paying rent somewhere else and had exorbitant bills, like that would have been difficult to make that jump. But I was in a pretty good spot at the time where I knew I felt comfortable taking that pay cut and knowing I probably had enough money to get me through that first season. And I'll be honest, like I literally spent every single dime I'd ever made just surviving that 8-month season. But I was like, I knew I was passionate about it. I had that internship, and I came home my first day in North Shore, and I said, I'm gonna work in baseball for the rest of my life. And my parents were like, pump the brakes, are you sure? And I was like, I know it's what I want to do. And they're like, okay, let's see where this goes. And that's what led to that.
Do you come from a sports family, a sports background, or you just love it?
No, I mean, I've played sports my whole life, soccer and basketball primarily. Like my brother played sports his whole life, my dad as well. But most of my family is police and fire, so I'm kind of like the black sheep of the family. I'm doing my own thing. A lot of firefighters and police officers and EMS on my side of the family. But I just knew it was something I was passionate about, and it's led me here.
Yeah. So you leave there. You spend the 9 months at the collegiate summer league. What's next? What was your next move?
So at the end of that season, so the Old Orchard Beach team was run by an extremely nice retired couple, and they bought the team because they didn't want the team to leave Old Orchard, but they were funding the team with their retirement money. And so going into the season, they kind of knew this was going to be the last season. Yeah. So at the end of the season, the team went out of business, but it was a financial decision. And so I was unemployed for a month or so, and I ended up being hired as the sponsorship account manager with the Frederick Keys. They are the Advanced A affiliate of the Baltimore Orioles down in Maryland. So that's when I really turned my focus 100% to sales there.
Now you spent some time there, and that's really where you got your taste for minor league sports sales.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. How did you end up in Nashville with the Nashville Sounds?
So kind of the normal flow of things in minor league baseball. A lot of similar to summer collegiate baseball, a lot of minor league teams operate on very small budgets, small staffs. You wear a lot of hats. There's this running joke in the industry that the last bullet point on every job description in minor league baseball is other duties as assigned, and that can encompass anything, whether it's cleaning the stadium for some teams or helping with the on-field, being the mascot. I've been a mascot more than I would care to admit, but it's just the nature of the business. So I worked with the Keys for 2 years, 2 seasons, and then I just felt I had accomplished enough to make the next jump. I saw the position opened in Nashville for the title was business development, basically an account executive in sales, and I applied, and here we are. So I've never really been. I've never was a huge athlete. And my brother was. He eat, sleep, fall ball, the whole package. So he knows it a lot more than I do. But I feel it seems like minor league, whether you're playing or you're on the ops side, is a grind, right? Definitely a grind. we are very fortunate here in Nashville that it is less of a grind than other teams have to endure. The smaller teams you're working on. So in Frederick, our full-time staff, I believe, was 15 people. So our 15-person staff has to accomplish and bring in just as much, or try to bring in just as much revenue and as many fans as possible as our staff in Nashville does. We have 45 full-time staff members. We're one of the larger staffs in minor league baseball. And we have a lot more resources available to us than most minor league teams. So I would say, and again, this is a running joke with some of my current coworkers, but on these smaller teams, you're working 80 to 100 hours a week in season, so for 5 to 6 months straight. And it really is a grind. It's not for everyone. You quickly find out if it's something you're passionate about and something you really want to do.
So here's what I'd like to know. Like, what does it take to really be successful? And at least in that world, in the minor league world, because again, like you said, you're not even playing and you're working 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
Like, for those who are kind of thinking about, like, do I want to get into this? Do I want to get into sports? Like, what does it take to really be successful?
I think it's different for everybody, but being passionate about what you do, regardless of the industry, is extremely important. For me in Nashville, thankfully, we're not working 80 to 100-hour work weeks. My coworkers would dump on me if I gave that perception. We're probably closer to the 40 to 60 in season, just because we have a great work-life balance with the Sounds. But for me, I'm a morning person, so our work hours are 9 to 5 during the off season. But I just wake up at 6:30 in the morning, so I get to the ballpark around 8. And for me, that 8 to 9 time frame, it's dead silent in the office, so I can get a lot of work done. I'm naturally a social and easily distracted person in the office, so from 9 to 5, I do a lot of bouncing around. I'm just talking to people, so I really like that 8 to 9 time frame to get a lot of work done and then work throughout the day, obviously. But also in minor league baseball, just being a great team player. If you say, that's not my job, that's just like a death sentence. And in sports in general, because there's so many people who want to work in sports and have the drive to work in sports, that if you're not willing to help other departments, whether it's marketing or promotions or media relations, whatever, that's not going to bode well for you, because there's plenty of people lined up who will do whatever it takes to work their butts off and stay in the sports industry.
Yeah. All right. So let's shift gears for a minute.
Sure.
You started off scrubbing toilets,
a few times.
Let's fast forward. You're 6 years later, you're the director of sales for the Nashville Sounds. That's a big, it feels like to me, maybe I don't know the world very well, but I feel like that's a pretty accelerated path. So with sales, what are some of the things that you've learned? Because let's think about, tell me if I'm wrong, you're over the sales for First Tennessee Park, correct?
Yeah, I'm over the ticket sales side.
Yeah, the ticket sales
of the Sounds and all that. We have some other events going on that I assist with, but primarily it's all Sounds baseball, and then we have a separate corporate partnership team.
Right. Which what I think the capacity is 10,000.
Yeah, anything over 10,000 is a sellout. So we sell out over 20 games a year, which is great. Yeah, this year we were the 4th highest attendance in minor league baseball, and there's 160 teams.
And you're talking about 70 games a year.
Home games,
10,000 tickets you're shooting for, 70 games a year. That's a high volume, high output, position. So what does that look like? What is the strategy that you really stop and think through? Because that's what I'm fascinated about. Like, how as a sales, over the sales of that, you're in essence trying to sell 700,000 tickets a year. Like, how do you sit down and lay that strategy to do that level of movement?
It really is a huge team effort. It's not just the sales department or anything like that. If we did not have the help of the marketing department and our promotions department and community relations and media relations, we would not nearly be as successful as we are. Yes, we do a lot of group outings and sell off season tickets, but if it wasn't for all the other stuff and the resources that are provided to us to promote such a great product, then no one would come to the ballpark. I think you're probably well aware that Nashville is exploding, and there's so many things to do in the city. So we always need to differentiate ourselves from every other entertainment option. Yes, the Titans and Preds are competitors of ours, but honestly, we compete more with the movie theaters and the mini golf places and those type of options because our price points are similar. The zoo is a big competitor of ours because it's a family friendly opportunity. But we have all these promotions and giveaways and other things we do throughout the year that we make sure we have a little bit for everybody. So whether you're a corporation looking to take care of your clients or your top salespeople or staff members or prospects, we have that. We have our fun zone. We have the bandbox, which I don't know if you've been to the bandbox before, but it's a great time. It's an outdoor bar in right field. We sell a couple thousand tickets every day just for people who treat it like their cover charge to the bar. And we just have fun with it. So it's the combination of promotions, our sales staff really boots on the ground, getting out in the community and meeting people and prospecting and all that. But it is a collective team effort that gets us to that point.
Right. You're talking about differentiating for a minute. I mean, I'm always fascinated by that. In my world, the real estate world, if you can pass, if you can bag groceries, you can pass your real estate test. I mean, let's just be honest here. I mean, it is a very low bar when it comes to to getting in. Now a lot of people find out the actual being successful is a lot different, than actually getting into the market, right? So you're talking about differentiating. Like, how have you found that that's been successful? Like, how would you approach? Give me an example of how you would approach being different in order to give you a competitive advantage.
Yeah, I think on specifically related to the sales side, we want to make sure our customer service is the top customer service out of any experience someone can go to in Nashville. So that's really what we hire on. We hire on personality, not on necessarily sales experience. If we're weighing two candidates and one person has the sales experience, but in the interview it just seems like a used car salesman approach, like that's not someone we want on our team. Right. We consistently hear from our season ticket holders and group leaders that they know they can reach us at any point. All our clients have our cell phone numbers, our emails, our direct office lines. If they need anything, we'll get back to them immediately and make sure they're well taken care of. We are also not transactional. Our sales staff is not transactional. It's very much relationship building. The larger sports teams have a sales department and a service department. Minor League Baseball, just because we run on smaller budgets, does not have that luxury of building out two separate departments. So your sales staff is your service department. So I have a ticket plan with the Red Sox because I'm from Massachusetts. My salesperson is just like, hey, renew your seats, and then you never talk to them again for a year. I don't mind. It's fine. But on the minor league level, when you're dealing with these people every single day, you want to build that relationship. So I'm very, very close with the vast majority of my season ticket holders and group leaders. I got married back in August, and a bunch of my season ticket holders sent us wedding gifts. And it was like, I was blown away because
fascinating.
Right. Yeah. It was very fascinating.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I was blown away because they're already spending thousands of dollars with the Sounds. Why would they then turn
around and do that?
Do that again, yeah. And that was really neat and awesome of them.
Which tells me that like you are able to build that personal connection, right? Sure, yeah. And here's something, and I can tell you're a super nice guy, and you tend to you're deflecting a lot, but I have a theory. I have a theory to that, and every one of us is a hidden genius, right? Like, meaning, if hypothetically you ask a fish, like, why do you swim so well? Most likely they'd be like, I don't know, you just do it. You just swim. When in reality, like, it's because, someone's gifts, they're so close to it. And I know a guy, a really good friend of mine, the best, most connected networker on the planet. Like literally, he will reach out to anybody. Sure. I don't care if they are, they make $15,000 a year, or if they make $15 million a month. Yeah, he don't care. He'll reach out and he's able to have that connection. But when I sit down and I ask him, like, hey, what makes you such a good networker? He's like, I don't know, And I noticed that a lot, and that's one of the things that I like to do here is really sit down and like what is it that makes people good at what they do, right? And it feels like
question.
And that's the thing that I think that it's hard because we're so close to it. Right. And
exactly.
I can tell you got that personal connection. Like, where did that come from? Like, where do you think the ability to connect? I mean, take for example, somebody giving you a gift. I remember there's been times where we close out a deal and they're giving me a bottle of whiskey as a closing gift. I'm like, what?
It's like you should be giving them the whiskey.
Yeah, I'm giving you a gift. Like, you don't give me a gift.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
what do you think that ability to connect with people came from? Like, where did that originate?
I really think it had to do with where I grew up. My hometown is 3 square miles, Merrimack, Massachusetts, the population of like 6,000 people. I said my whole family is like police and fire. So my dad's been on the fire department. He's now the fire chief. And my mom's been working in the schools since I was 5 years old. So we just always knew everyone around town. We were definitely townies. Right. And it was just like my dad, he's an electrician as well. So he was always helping people around town and is always helping people. And so it was just instilled, I think, in me and my brother at an early age, like, you want to do right by people. It's that very much that small town bond. Right. And that's why I like taking care of my clients, because it's kind of like my own little small town and getting to know people, and they know they can come to me for anything. Like, I feel like people can go to my parents if they need anything.
Yeah. Which is, again, it's just always fascinating to me. Like, to really be able to sit down and break, like, what is it that makes people tick? Like, what is it that makes people stop?
Yeah.
Because it's very difficult at times, at least it has been for me, of really, really stopping. And, we've been able to build something, and we're trying to build a company, and we're really trying to build that connection.
Yeah.
And I think it takes intentionality to, like, we have that connection, and we're able to build it to where people are like, hey, this is the best thing that's ever, like this, what is typically a terrible experience, you've been able to make good. But it's been a lot of it trying to be intentional to say, all right, what does that, like, where does that come from? Like, how do we replicate it?
Absolutely, yeah.
And it can be a little more, difficult than just, I don't know, than just saying, oh, well, you just take care of people.
Yeah. I think too, when we're interviewing people, the easiest thing I do when I interview people is we do a lot of phone interviews, and you have a phone interview and you're in sales, you're going to be talking to strangers all day, every day. If you and I if we've never met and you and I can have a normal conversation for a half hour on the phone, like, that's kind of 90% of the battle. Yeah. And I like to think you can tell pretty quickly from just a normal conversation if someone's a good person in there. They'll treat people right. Yeah. I've had plenty of conversations where you're interviewing someone and you can tell they kind of have that, just like, I'll do whatever it takes to get the sale. And that's good in many instances, but if you're not going about it the right way and being intentional about it, then it's just not it's not the type of person we want to have, because at the end of the day, we want to provide the best overall experience, not just like, hey, go sign that $100,000 deal. Yes, that's awesome. Like, we would love a lot of those, but if it leaves a bad taste in the mouth of the client, then maybe that's not the way we want to go about it.
Right. How have you been successful in ensuring that, your team, the people under you, are really able to take care of people at a high level? Because I have found that can be tough. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, because for you, you're gonna take care of people. You're gonna make sure that you're gonna do right, and I think hiring is a good piece of that. But how have you found a successful way to build a strong culture, if you will?
Yeah. Honestly, it starts with our ownership and our GM. Adam Noose is our general manager. Frank Ward is our owner. And Adam has really instilled in all of us that I would argue that we have the best culture in minor league baseball. We get lots of people reaching out to say, like, what do you do that everyone just wants to work for Nashville and loves working in Nashville for the Sounds? And it starts with Adam, and it's a trickle down effect. So we have a lot of families on staff, so it's making sure that dads and moms are able to go see their kids' dance recitals and coach their soccer teams and all that. Just having that type of opportunity for those people is great, and it just creates such a good feeling that it then trickles down throughout the departments.
Yeah.
When I got married in August, Adam was just like, "Hey, take your wedding week off and disappear." Like, I know obviously it's a big.
Right?
It was August 23rd.
Oh, 23rd.
Thanks for the
okay.
quiz.
I was
put
like,
me
I'm
on
trying to remember.
quiz me for a second. But yeah, he's like, take the week off, disappear.
Right.
It was in between a homestand, so there's typically a lot going on. But he's like, I don't want you to think about work. And then after the season, he was like, disappear for 2 weeks for your honeymoon. Like, I don't want to hear a peep out of you.
Right.
So just those are big things, but there's just so many little things where it's sometimes maybe we'll close the office at 4:00 one day, or
Right.
just like having a random half day, or just little things throughout the year that keeps everyone happy and just builds a great culture. And then by default, people are just going to want to run through a brick wall for you because you're treating them right.
Yeah.
And we just have a lot afforded to us that a lot of minor league teams do not have, but just a lot of companies in general do not have that type of culture.
Yeah. So for someone wanting to break in, somebody wanting, they look at you and they say, I want to do that one day. Like, what would you tell them?
You do. That's tough. There are so many people. There are so many people that want to work in sports.
Yeah.
It's obviously a great industry, and people think it's all glamorous. But like you said, it is a grind. People just see sports and they're like, I definitely want to work in sports, but they don't know all the grind behind the scenes that goes with it. I have people reach out to me on LinkedIn all the time, students in college that are ask me that same question, and I don't know if there's a perfect answer, honestly. I would try very, very hard to get that first internship. A lot of teams have game day internships, or even internships in the off season, or seasonal positions from, say, January through September. Even working on our game day staff, we hire, I want to say, 200 or so game day employees that are ushers and ticket scanners and box office associates, and just so many people that get your foot in the door that way. And if you're working every single night and you're dependable and you're not skipping out on the holidays when we really need you the most, that paints a great picture and really, really helps your case. We have a program that Shannon Wong on our staff, she's our promotions manager, started last year, and it was our promo team, but they are now called the brand ambassadors, and I think we're retooling that for 2020 as far as the name goes. But it was, I believe, 12 college students, and they got to do everything. So they worked pretty much full time with us from, I want to say, March through September, and some have stayed on with us in the meantime, but they're primarily working games and helping with on-field stuff and doing all the game day type things. But then she also made sure that they got office hours with each department that they were interested in working with. And that's huge, because then they get to find out, okay, they think they want to do sales, but do they really want to do sales after sitting with me for 4 hours for one day and seeing what cold calling is like, and going to meetings and all that. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. It's just a matter of getting your foot in the door and applying to them. And what I tell people the most is you need to be willing to go anywhere. There's so many people so I'm from Massachusetts. Some people will be like, I will only work for a team in Massachusetts. It'll only be baseball, and I'll only live an hour from home.
Right.
You can't do that. If you're really passionate about something, like I'm from Massachusetts, my first job was in Massachusetts, then Maine, then Maryland, and now Tennessee. So I'm 1,300 miles from home. So if you're not willing to make that jump, then you're drastically limiting yourself. So you need to be open to going kind of wherever to make it happen.
One of the things that I also noticed is you seem very well connected. Like, which is probably gonna be the case when you're selling, at a big level and season tickets. But what are some thoughts like that you have on really networking at a high level? Because I feel like no matter what you do, the cliche saying your network is your net worth. And that is something for me is. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to get better at.
Yeah.
Is really reaching out and building that network. What
Yeah.
What are some thoughts you have on that?
From a networking perspective, there's my professional networking purposes, and then there's my more selfish personal networking purposes. A lot of it starts with LinkedIn, honestly. On at least online, I will basically, if it pops up on LinkedIn that someone lives and works in Nashville, I will connect with you. I don't care if I know you or not. If you work in Nashville, I will probably just hit connect, and then you never know when you may need that person down the road.
Yeah.
So there's that professional side of things on LinkedIn. On the personal side of things, our GM is not naive to think that everyone's going to work for the Sounds for their entire career. So any person that works in sports on LinkedIn, I connect with. I don't care if you're the CEO, the owner, or just an intern. Like, you never know. My goal is to run a team at some point. So at some point, I'm going to need to hire people under me. And
so you want to GM a team?
Yeah, I would love to GM a team. Yeah, that's the ultimate goal.
That's awesome.
And Adam does a really great job of supporting that and encouraging that and seeing how he can help and making introductions that many bosses would not be willing to make. Exactly. Yeah. But it also, I've never once even considered leaving the Sounds since I started working here, because there's that support, and I know that if and when that time comes, I have that support and resources on my side. So personally, I will connect with anyone that works in sports. I don't care the position, the sport, or anything related to that. So that's kind of my LinkedIn networking. And then just here in Nashville, we are members of 7 chambers of commerce, so Nashville plus the 6 surrounding counties. And myself and our sales staff, we are always going to as many networking events as possible throughout the week, whether it's breakfast, lunch, happy hour, whatever, because you, in my opinion, you get so much more out of going to a networking event and maybe having 10 conversations with people face to face than I would get making 100 cold calls to people who have never cold leads. They have no idea who I am as a person. I can say I can work for the Sounds, and that maybe starts the conversation, but meeting people face to face, I think, is so much more valuable.
Yeah, that's awesome. So one more thing. I noticed that a lot of people, as they grow and they are successful, they tend to get connected. And I noticed you're really connected with the Kiwanis club. So tell me about that. What got you connected, and kind of what's the motivation behind that?
So the Sounds were a member of the Kiwanis Club of Nashville before I started. And there was another person on staff who was our Kiwanis member, or Kiwanis representative, we'll say. He got another opportunity up at Western Kentucky, so that our seat kind of opened up, and our GM just knew that I loved going to networking events, and that's an ultimate networking event, but it's also just really community focused. And that's really what I'm passionate about. Before I worked in sports, I worked at a school for many, many years, the same school district that I went to school in. So I worked at before and after school programs and summer camps, and obviously the focus there is kids and helping kids. So Kiwanis has that same focus and mission, is helping one child, one community at a time. So it's every Friday, and it's just an awesome group of people. I don't treat it like your traditional networking event. It's kids first, it's community first. If sales come of it, that's great, but I do not actively push the Sounds there. I don't have those ulterior motives. I would much rather help the community and be invested. And Kiwanis has helped us out with our Sweets and Treats event in October, where we had about 600 kids come, underprivileged or handicapped physically or mentally, disabled kids come to the ballpark, and they got to go trick-or-treating in all our suites. All our suites had different themes, and that's something our foundation does every year. And it's awesome. But it was really cool to kind of mold my two worlds together and have Kiwanis be a part of that. But we just do so much in the community between our foundation and Kiwanis as well. I'm on the board of the Kiwanis Foundation, so it's something I'm even more invested in, just wanting to kind of help change and make positive change in Nashville.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right, dude, man, it's been awesome. It's been awesome.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
This
I
has been
appreciate
great.
you coming on. So if somebody wants to connect with you, whether it's just a network, whether it is to get connected with the Sounds and kind of do that, like what is the best way to get you?
Oh, that's a great idea. Great question. I would say, I mean, my email is taylorf, as in Fisher, at nashvillesounds.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. And basically every other social media platform, but those would be the two best ones I would say from a professional side of things for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, man, I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.
Cheers, man.